Christopher Nolan has spent his career building elaborate machines around a simple human ache: memory, time, loss. With the Odyssey, he goes back to the source. This is an epic fantasy action film written and directed by Nolan, adapting Homer's foundational poem with an approach that's deliberately, aggressively tactile. Nolan drew on Emily Wilson's 2017 translation and the practical effects legacy of Ray Harryhausen, shooting across Morocco, Greece, Italy, Scotland, Iceland, and Malta, rather than leaning on digital backlots. Matt Damon anchors it as Odysseus, a king who can't seem to get home. What makes this adaptation worth talking about isn't the scale, though there's plenty of that. It's the specific choices underneath it. Myth treated as whether you survive. A decade-long homecoming as the real engine of the plot. Gods who meddle for reasons that have nothing to do with mortal deserving. Monsters encountered one at a time. And a kingdom quietly rotting in the hero's absence.
Don't you remember?
Nolan has never been interested in myth as spectacle for its own sake. What defines his take on Homer is the insistence that this all happened, that the Cyclops has weight, that the sea has salt in it, that a god's intervention lands with the force of a physical event rather than a special effect. That instinct isn't new to epic storytelling, but it's rare. And when a modern work commits to it fully, the myth stops feeling like decoration and starts feeling like survival.
So you value your privacy more than your son, eh?
I'm going to cut off your head now.
Fair enough.
God of War made the same bet 11 years earlier, and it made it structurally, not just visually. Santa Monica Studios' 2018 reboot moved the series from its loosely Greek mythological roots into Norse mythology. And the shift wasn't cosmetic. It forced a version of divinity that felt cold, physical, and consequence-heavy, rather than operatic. The game gave Kratos a young son, Atreus, as a co-lead for the first time in the series. And that single choice reframed every god encounter as something with domestic stakes. The famous technical decision reinforces the point. The entire game plays out with no loading screens or camera cuts, which means every monster, every god, every collapsing realm is something the camera, and by extension you, physically walks through rather than cuts away from. It's the same logic Nolan applies with practical creature work and real locations. Myth loses its remove the moment you can't look away from it. Both works understand that grounding isn't about making gods small, it's about making their weight land on someone specific. Strip away the monsters for a moment, and the Odyssey is a story about time. 10 years of war, then 10 more of a journey that keeps refusing to end. That's the part that's easy to lose under the spectacle. This isn't an adventure with a home waiting at the end of it. It's a man trying to solve his way back to a life that's moved on without him, one obstacle at a time. Castaway strips the myth away entirely and keeps only the shape of the problem. There are no gods and no monsters, just a man alone solving survival methodically, day by day, with no guarantee the world he left is still waiting. The film's power comes from that patience. It never rushes the isolation for the sake of plot, because the isolation is the plot. What makes the comparison land specifically, not just thematically, is the return. Chuck Nolan's homecoming isn't a triumph. His fiancée has moved on, remarried, rebuilt a life around his absence, and he has to stand in a doorway and watch that reality register. That's Penelope's uncertainty and Ithaca's slow drift mirrored almost exactly. A fear that isn't monsters or gods, it's simply that the wait had a limit, and nobody told you when it expired. Both stories understand that the longest part of any Odyssey is the part where nothing is trying to kill you, just time. None of Odysseus' suffering is really his fault, and that's the part modern audiences sometimes struggle with. Athena favors him, Poseidon despises him, The gods argue about his fate the way people argue about traffic, and a mortal life gets rerouted accordingly. It's not tragedy in the sense of a flaw undoing a man. It's tragedy in the sense of being a chess piece nobody asked to be.
Is this your old lady's obituary? She was a fine
American Gods built its entire premise on that same imbalance of power. Based on Neil Gaiman's 2001 novel, the series follows Shadow Moon, who meets a mysterious man named Mr. Wednesday and becomes entangled in a brewing war between old gods and new gods. Wednesday is charming, manipulative, and treats Shadow's life as a resource to be spent. Not out of malice exactly, just because that's what gods do with the mortals orbiting them. The show's Wednesday could be Poseidon in a rumpled suit. He rationalizes cruelty as necessity, dispenses favor and punishment on his own unknowable schedule, and never once considers that the human caught in the middle might deserve an explanation. As Wednesday puts it, people create gods to explain why things happen, and being good to your god is simply the price of a good outcome. That's the exact bargain Odysseus is stuck inside. Devotion and suffering handed out with the same shrug, and no appeal process. The scale is different, no sea voyage, no decade lost, but the powerlessness in the face of divine whim is identical. For all its emotional through line, the Odyssey is still structurally a gauntlet. Cyclops, then Sirens, then Scylla, then whatever comes next. Each island its own contained crisis before the story moves on. It's one of the oldest storytelling shapes there is, episodic by design. And it still works because each encounter is allowed to be its own complete idea before the journey resumes. Epic, the musical, takes that same episodic bone structure and turns it into its actual format. Created by Jorge Rivera Herranz, the project retells Odysseus' journey home across 9 sagas split into 2 acts, each covering a distinct leg of the voyage: the Cyclops, the Lotus Eaters, the Underworld, each one its own musical chapter with its own tone and stakes. What's compelling is how faithfully the structure preserves Homer's pacing instincts while modernizing everything else. The Lotus Eater saga plays the temptation almost as psychological horror, with Odysseus' suspicion the only thing stopping his crew from being drugged into complacency. And each subsequent saga resets tone and danger the way a good Monster of the Week structure should. It's proof the format still works when a creator trusts each encounter to earn its own space, rather than rushing toward the next. Odysseus isn't the only one enduring an Odyssey. While he's fighting Cyclops and outrunning Sirens, Ithaca is falling apart. A wife under siege by suitors, a son with no father to learn from, a kingdom assumed dead and picked over accordingly. That home front story is easy to treat as backdrop. It shouldn't be.
We will remember. And we will forget. Together.
The Return makes the boldest possible choice with this material. It removes almost everything except the home front story. Directed by Uberto Pasolini and starring Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche, the film retells the second half of the Odyssey. No Cyclops, no gods, no sea monsters. Just a broken man washing ashore to a household under occupation. Fiennes plays Odysseus as someone who has to rediscover his own resolve before he can save anyone, and the film's most quietly devastating exchange lands the entire premise in a few lines. For some, war becomes home, he tells Penelope when she asks him to explain the years she missed. It's a story about a kingdom in ruins, told almost entirely through 2 people standing in the wreckage of a marriage, and it argues convincingly that the siege of Ithaca was always the real epic. Nolan's version gives you the sea. This one gives you the doorway. Whichever version pulls at you, the grounded myth, the long wait, the divine cruelty, the episodic gauntlet, or the kingdom left behind, there's a whole story built around exactly that feeling. Homer gave us the map. It's just taken 3,000 years to fill in all the roads.